WCLN 1170 Radio and Cable Channel 16 are pleased to present We Should Know, hosted by JW Simmons, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative as we consider closely what we should know.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We Should Know is on there. I want to thank you for being with us today. My name is JW Simmons. I'm your host. Today we're talking with two folks that I'm sure you probably know. If not, you will know. And I'm going to start with the chairman of the Board of Commissioners, Jerol Kivett. Jerol, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And vice chair, former chairman of the board, Sue Lee, thank you for being and coming back again. I always like to have people back because that says we had a pretty good time when you were here last time. So thank both of you for being here. There's so much going on. I want to open today for both of you with this question, which I guess is kind of geared to maybe get folks to know you a little bit better. But the question is, you got into politics. You got into a local board of commissioners, which is a demanding job. First and foremost, thank you for doing what you're doing, but why make this choice? And I'll start with you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you. I really never intended to get into it. Matter of fact, when I was first approached, I turned it down. And credit to my wife, afterwards she said, you should consider it. And so I thought about it, and just so happened the next day I was over at my mother's house, and she was 92. And I asked her what she thought of it. And she looked at me straight in the eye and said, we could all do a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And so I got to thinking about that and what she and my dad did for their ministry and the time they put in. They had a prison ministry that they went every Saturday night for 30 years. Right here in Clinton. And I got to thinking about what they devoted themselves to and how good the county had been to us. I'm a second generation owner of a 65-year-old company that was started here. My parents go back, we've been here over 100 years. And so it's time for me to give back to the county.
I love that response, Sue, because you cannot say anything wrong with a man that listens to his mother.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm just going to go, your turn.
Okay, when I was first approached, I thought about it. I hung up the phone. I said, there's no way in the world I'd ever do that. A couple of days later, I remembered, you promised this person that you would think about it and pray about it. And so the more I prayed about it, the more I was just led that this was something I was supposed to do. It took about 2 or 3 weeks for me to come to grips with that decision, and I finally accepted it. I love the county, and I wanted to be able to give something back.
A lot of it, when I think about the commissioners, particularly what you guys do in a leadership role on the board, is not a burden, but there's a lot of weight to that in the sense of what's expected of you. And I want to kind of open that door to look at the role of commissioners and the role particularly of the leadership on the Board of Commissioners. Do you feel a huge amount of weight since you got into this? And both of you have been in it for some years now, so you understand, I guess, what I'm talking about when I use the word weight. How does that affect you and your life, and how has it affected your life as a family man, a person?
Initially, you do not know, and it's a learning experience. And there's so much to grasp to start with. You just start by bits and pieces, but it comes at you pretty fast. And as time goes along, you realize just how in-depth this job is and how you have to be devoted to it. If I'm going to do something, I do it 100% or I'm not interested in doing it. And if you put 100% in, it's every day. I do something for the county every day, and a lot of nights as well. I may be up at 3 o'clock in the morning thinking about something that's going on, mm-hmm. and especially with the circumstances that we dealt with since the pandemic and the situations that it has brought on, the impact that it's had on us. The financial impact is huge, and what it means to us in the future, and how we're going to deal with it. We've basically been in a perfect storm. We've gotten a situation where it's financially impacted our county in ways that it never was. And so we're having to deal with that. And that's a major concern for us at this time.
It's much more than I ever expected it to be. It consumes a lot of my day. If I didn't work part-time, I'd never be able to do it. I get calls sometimes as early as 6 in the morning, sometimes as late as midnight. Always happy to help. I have to keep a mindset, though, that I'm a commissioner for the whole county. We have to do what's right for the whole county, and you have to really do a lot of praying. You have to look at the things and make wise decisions, and basically it's a lot of math and just having good common sense on how to run things. But you can't have a favorite department. You can't. It's just got to have a 10,000-foot level rather than be, and you have to look at that and make decisions based on that.
Sue's hit on the point there that it's a lot of math. It's mostly math, because if the math doesn't work out, we can't do it. We don't have the money. Once we do a budget, all the money has been expended in that budget, and you just don't have extra to work with. And that's a fallacy that a lot of people don't see. They think we have extra money. And that's what's happened with the federal government, with them being able to print money and give it away the way they do. We don't have that option. But it is demanding. It's a lot of time at night, and dealing with issues that come up inadvertently. You just never know what's coming.
Well, both you folks are very successful business people, and Mr. Chairman, I think to me that adds a lot of positive weight to understanding that analytical piece. And so I want to kind of talk about that budget part, and you alluded to the analytics of it and understanding that there is math involved in this. How do you fit that expectation that maybe some folks may have? We want this, or why don't y'all do so and so? How do you bridge that gap to say, we're talking about 28 departments here, there's 35 advisory boards that you guys are kind of governance and have oversight, and you're looking at a lot of those things. How do you get that message out and maybe help us better understand why you can't just say, well, excuse me, I'm the chairman of the board, I'll just sign a note and take care of that. Both of you have been in that position.
Yeah.
And I think that expectation is out there somewhere.
It certainly is. There's so much mandated that we have to spend. Matter of fact, there's about 6 departments or 7 departments that control 70% of our budget. And so that only leaves 30% discretionary, but a lot of that's expected. Things such as recreation, library, things of that nature. It's a tremendous hardship to try to come up and balance all of that. In other words, being able to provide the things that the people want, the services that want, increasing those services such as medical emergency service, being able to expand that whenever you don't have the money. And that's the biggest problem. As I said, we've been caught in a perfect storm. What we've had a neutral tax levy for the last 14 years. We had a reval back in 19, and it was neutral. So basically, that's put us on an even keel, no increase. We still had inflation, but we had no increase in funds coming in, revenue coming in from property taxes. And so we have been blindsided with this inflation, 40-year high inflation that we're seeing now. The supply chain is broken, getting parts. We've had problems trying to provide heat in the schools. A system breaks down, you can't find the parts. And so it's something's coming up all the time. And it's been a challenge, to say the least.
And we just don't have free access to money. There's not ways to go out and generate revenue easily. Right now, our fund balance stands at about 40%, about 34% of our total budget. We are mandated by the local government commission on how much we have to keep in our fund balance. And if we keep tapping that to go in and operate day to day, we're going to be in big trouble. If we say we would have a tremendous storm or something that the county would have to come out with funds to get us back working, sure, federal government's going to pay us later, but in the meantime, Sampson County is going to have to cover the expenses, and we've got to operate until. We're a low wealth county. We just don't have the resources that a lot of the larger counties do, and we have to work very hard with what we have. And in our budget, so many things are mandated that we have to provide. We just don't have a lot of leeway.
And geographically, we have the largest county. Well, with GIS, they say it's between us and Robeson County, but we have 947 square miles that we have to cover with every department, and that's taxing on all those departments. Finding personnel is a problem. That's another story all by itself. But the money that it takes to run the county has increased exponentially. And we were just, like I said, we were caught in a perfect storm, and now we're having to adjust. And we have some things working that we feel that was going to work for us to help, but nothing today. It's coming down the road, and that's where we are.
How much of this, so do you look at it and it's like expectation? If you could get people to understand, just as we have when we go to the gas pump or we buy a dozen eggs, we expect it to be one thing, but it's much more than that. Does that same kind of mentality need to work in understanding government's expectation?
Absolutely. We were speaking this week about our energy bills. They're much higher than we had anticipated and budgeted for, and that's going to cause an issue for us. Gas has been a lot higher than we thought, and it's just like sitting around your kitchen table trying to meet the needs of the items that you need.
And for your business backgrounds and the businesses that you guys operate, that same thing is impacting your private business as well.
Absolutely.
Certainly. It's unprecedented times. Labor shortage is one thing, but the higher costs that we haven't seen before, it changes so rapidly you can't adjust for it. And it's a burden that we have to work with and learn as we go.
And try to fuse together what ways you can to make government continue to provide the services expected. Sometimes is probably one of your biggest challenges.
It is. I would say it is. And of course, we want everybody in Sampson County to have everything they want and need, but it's just not a practical wish on our part. So we have to do the best we can.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I would like for you to kind of walk us through the budget process and kind of talk about each piece of that and what goes on with that so folks will understand. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment. We're talking with the Chairman of the Board of Commissioners and the Vice Chair. We'll be back in a moment to give you more details about the budget.
Providing fewer commutes, more backyard offices, and crystal clear meetings. Providing less, you froze up, and more presence in your presentations. Providing a better internet experience. Providing possible.
You're out for an evening on the town. Finally a chance to relax and forget that you left your front door completely unlocked. Fortunately, you just installed a security system from Star Communications. With just your cell phone, you can check on your house, lock it down, light it up, and get back to relaxing.
You forgot to put Buster in his crate.
Unfortunately, we can't help with that. Security and automation from Star Communications. Call today to find out more.
Most aging adults want to stay in their homes as long as possible. And as your loved ones get older, you want to support them, even when you can't be there. Star is proud to offer Star Alert. This new system is now mobile and has GPS compatibility, so your loved ones can live their lives and you can have peace of mind, knowing they can get the help they need with just the simple push of a button. The new Star Alert also offers automatic fall detection, so help will be alerted even if they can't press the button. Call and ask about Star Alert today.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. JW Simmons here, your host. The name of the show is We Should Know. We're talking with the Chairman of the Board of Commissioners in Sampson County, Jerol Kivett, and the Vice Chair, and I always want to say former chair also, Sue Lee. You guys have done a great job. Oftentimes the job you do gets misunderstood. One of those areas that often creates a storm is the budgetary process and adhering to that budget. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to start with you on this. There's an interesting thing that I want to try to get folks to understand, and I'm sure obviously they do, but unlike the federal budget that's now in $31+ trillion debt, the county budget has to be balanced as your business budgets are balanced, as our home family budgets have to balance. Tell us how the budget process works time-wise, because it's a fiscal year budget. That's July 1 to June every year. So I'm just going to open the door and let's just kind of talk about that.
Sure. To be honest with you, we're always working on the budget. Even when you approve a budget, you know the next one's coming, and you're looking for things that are going to be more demanding than in the past. Budget process today is different than it was 5 years ago because of inflation and the impact, how quickly it changes. And it's not for the good. It's always costing more and more money. The thing that I've always done, I go to the back of the book and read forward. And I look at how much money we have, and then how are we going to allocate it. So you look at the main drivers of your budget and deduct that out and see how much more money that you have this year than you had last, and where you can put that if you're going to have any. And that's one of the problems that we've had in this county. We don't have more money. It's turning out we have less. If you remember, we cut $2.6 million out of a budget last year. Sue did a great job with this. She and Ed worked on that, and we're starting out this year before we ever start with the budget, in which we start working on it in February and into January, and start accumulating the information. But we're already starting out $2.6 million in the hole. And we look at the budget process, and then too, the budget that we're going to move forward is going to be more. So we know it's going to be more than the 2.6. So it's totally different this year than it was last, and each year seems to be changing in that direction. But we're trying to find avenues to bring in more revenue for the county without tax increases. Mm-hmm. That is our goal. We're taxpayers too. And we have one of the highest tax rates in the state, with the 14th highest. And one of our main budget drivers too is debt. We have over $100 million in debt, and to no one's fault, but it has us hamstringed in what we can do in the future to deal with it, because the debt service is probably 15 cents on the tax rate. So we have all that to work with, that math, and figure out how we can balance the budget, and which we have to do. We can't take out a credit card on the taxpayers just because we want to do something else. So it's a working process, and you're really never through with the budget.
How important is it to have good people that understands the analytics to work with the commissioners and giving you the information you need to make accurate decisions financially, not only now, but as you look at future?
Okay, I'm going to start at the front of the book. Jerol started at the back. The department heads start out at the beginning of the process, and they formulate what they think they're going to need. And we have an excellent staff, our department heads work so hard, and I'll have to commend them for all the hard work they've done to try to adhere to our budget. They go through all that, they turn it in. Our financial officer, David Clack, there's no one any better with numbers. And he and Mr. Causey sit down and go through. They come up with a formula on how right now we're paying like $1,271 per student per year. There's a formula to arrive at that number, and then we put it all together. As Commissioner Kivett was saying, we do not think that Sampson County needs a tax increase. Economic development is so important. Having that such a high, our tax rate is higher than any of our contiguous counties. Mm-hmm. Should we want to attract new business, which we do, which would help our burden some on the tax load, the first thing they're going to look at is what's your tax load? What's your tax rate? Do I want to come locate in a county that has one of the highest tax rates there are? They're going to look at the environment in the county, what's going on. All of that is important. You have to think about all this as you're doing the budget.
One of the things that strikes me, and I oftentimes folks will say, why don't you ask some of the commissioners when they're on? So I'm going to ask the question. You just alluded to the tax rate. When we look at the bulk of where the money comes from to fund all the services the county offers, does the bulk of that fund come from property ownership and things that folks own, the ad valorem tax as it is referred to? Yes,
that's the biggest portion of it. It comes from that. And of course, industry any new industry we can get in is certainly going to help in that manner. As Enviva, for one, that we just put on just a few years back, has had a big impact in the excess funds that it's given us. However, inflation keeps chipping away at it very quickly now. We're in unprecedented times with inflation, and so that's going to exacerbate the challenge even more.
I've noticed at a number of the commissioners' meetings, the priority that folks a lot of times they talk about is the water supply in the county. I think you had that in the recent meeting, but you've made some huge steps forward with the water supply. Even the governor showed up in the Harrells area, down in the Ivanhoe area, with a system there. Talk to us about how important it is when you look at that of obtaining grants and those kinds of things.
You hit on a good point. We got a $13.4 million grant for Ivanhoe, and those folks really need water. It's a hard to get to area for us. We have an enterprise system in our water system, and what that is, it is self-funding. There's no tax dollars that goes into it, and we take whatever money that we accumulate and can make off of that and add more services, more people, and add more miles of pipe. And one of the things that we're doing also is we sell water to adjacent counties. Johnston County is buying water from us. And that is enabling us to take that money that we make and put more Sampsonians on it. And so that's a constant thing that we're working on. So the system is good. We've had great strides in that and continue to get that. We also got some ARPA money that helped us with 2 new water tanks that we were able to put in to help deliver the funds, the flow of the water to improve that, which is always a challenge. But we have such a large county. It takes a long time to get everyone the water that we need by it paying the cost for expansion as well.
The chairman alluded to a number of things there, and I'm going to switch to this issue, is that how hard is preparing that budget aligned with trying to get the kind of employees you need to work for the county to fill a lot of these positions in the county?
Right now, employee shortage is systemic across the United States. It's not just in one area. It is not unique to Sampson County. I'm not sure where all the employees have gone. In our personal business, we need employees desperately. Same way with the county. We can't find people that want to work. And that's made it really hard for us to continue all of our services. And we're very aware of it. And we're trying very hard to do everything we can to remedy the situation. But it's just a tough situation that our whole country is finding itself in now.
Is that somewhat across the board with all departments, is trying to find those human assets to make certain things happen? Yes, it is, and private sector and public sector both. I talk with a lot of friends on the association, North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. I'm on the board of directors, and I get to talk to a lot of commissioners across the state, and they're all facing the same problem. There's really not a solution right now. Everyone's trying to increase salaries, and so one county will increase the salary, which the next county will have to do the same, and it's just a domino effect. And it creates a problem for the low wealth counties. As Sue mentioned, we are a low wealth county. We have 2 out of 3 households has some person in there drawing some form of government subsidy in Sampson County, and so that's an issue that we have to deal with. But there again, the influx of labor is not coming to Sampson County. They're going to Raleigh and places like that. And so it's hard for us to find people that are willing to come in. But then the other thing is we're having to up salaries. We're doing a market study now that will go to all the counties around us, the contiguous counties, and give us a perspective of where we need to be, and then we will make an adjustment. We're committed to making that adjustment so that we're on par with counties that are very similar to us, and that way we can be competitive and compete for people that we need in those places. There's a number of places that we're short, and so we're committed to doing that. It's just taking a little bit of time. And then too, that's going to have
major impact on our budget and future budgets. This is not just one time. This is going to be from now on to eternity.
I think we've made major strides in the last 18 months. I think in your speech the other night, Jerol alluded to the fact that we've given a 15% raise to all of our employees in the last 18 months. And that doesn't mean we want to stop, but that has helped not exacerbate the situation. One other department has gotten almost 20%. Yeah. And we're trying hard, but it is a process. And when you have limited assets, you have to adhere to that.
Right. Go back to my point that we've had 14 years of a neutral tax levy, and we're going to be 2 more years into that, so we'll be 16 years with a neutral tax levy, which does not give us the money to fight the rising costs of salaries and as well as the inflation that everyone's experiencing.
We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about how we generate funds other than coming from the same source, and you alluded to one of them a while ago. So, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment.
To get the most out of your electronic devices, you need a strong internet connection and a protected home Wi-Fi network. You need high-speed internet from Star. Star has the fastest, most affordable high-speed internet service available for all your devices. We have no long-term contracts or high-pressure sales. Our service speaks for itself, and switching is hassle-free. We take care of everything with free installation from a local company. High-speed internet from Star. Internet at the speed of light. Just because something may work doesn't mean it's right for your business. Let Star Communications' knowledgeable consultants help you customize a hosted voice system that's right for you. Our dedicated experts work with you to understand your business needs and guide you at every step, from choosing and installing services to ongoing maintenance and support. Contact Star today.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. JW Simmons here. The name of the show is We Should Know. We're talking to the commissioners, and we're talking with the people that's the leadership on the commissioners board, and that's chairman of the board, Mr. Jerol Kivett, and also Sue Lee, who is the vice chair of the board now, and formerly the chair. Sometime you've had that experience. One of the things that interests me in this conversation is that you guys really get this, and you understand that there is a real sense here that when we look at our income money-wise, it is coming from the people that's really working and making something in the county. Plus, you have reached out to go beyond that and start trying to develop a format to bring business and industry in to increase that growth. One of the areas I think about is like the Newton Grove area, where there's about 200 acres of property up there that's purchased to develop that will be a huge impact for the county. Why Newton Grove? Why did that property interest you? What do you see as the future for the Newton Grove property?
I think it's great for the county. That property became available, had not been available, and the timing was questionable on our part because we had purchased land here in Clinton as well. But it was one of the things that we needed to do because industry is moving out of Wake County, moving down this way, and we're one of the next ones to catch that. We need to expand our tax base, and one way of doing that is with the industry. Now, in Viva is one that we did. It had a great impact on us, and then not only are they paying more taxes, but they're also buying water. They're buying a tremendous amount of water for us, from us. So we're looking for the same thing in the Newton Grove property. We were fortunate to get some money from the feds through the COVID relief, and we put those funds forward for that. And so we're looking forward to that happening. We're trying to get more water to that area, which is a key factor as well. So we're prepared to bring in some industry.
So you got observation, because I think that the thing I'm looking at here is this idea, as you do with your private business, you do things that will enhance and enrich that business. Is that same kind of approach for the county?
Absolutely. The timing was questionable. It always is when major funds are needed, but we had to look forward for the county. We hope Sampson County is going to be thriving hundreds of years after us, and we have to try to make the path easier for the people that come after us. And having a lot of companies want ready to use property when they come in.
And that's what Enviva was. We were fortunate that we had the property, and so they came to us because we were ready. It was shovel ready, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And so here we are with Newton Grove area the same way. And this is important. Interstate 40 is a key player in this, and that's the only property that we have that was close to I-40, and we were right there. So we'll have a great influence.
It seems like an ideal location, and when I think about that process, the next observation would be, and oftentimes folks will ask this, we've talked about property tax being the main source of income. Folks will ask this question, and I'll just leverage it to you. Is there some way that a part of the sales tax that is done in the county could be utilized for county services? And is that a viable way to spread the income level of people so it's just not one sector that's pushing the revenue? We're
actually looking into that as well. That's something that we're working with the legislature on, is a sales tax issue. Yes, that's a good way to give more money that we're not having to take from the people. It's a fair tax. But the other thing too is you consider industry. The impact that they have is so much greater than an individual home or something of that nature. Enviva is close to $1 million is what they generate for us each year. So it would take a lot of homes to increase that. But consider the fact that the county lost a population in the last 10 years. So we're at that level. So industry is the best thing that we can do, and that was one of the key things that we looked at that helped us to make that decision to move forward with that property, which was hard to do because of the impact that it has financially on us. But we were also fortunate that, as I stated, we were able to get some federal money to help with that.
In clarifying part of this income equation too, I'm often brought to my attention, should I say, a large income base for this county is agriculture. Mm-hmm. And a lot of farmers will say, it's kind of what you alluded to, is that, we may have several $1 million operation here. It don't take long when you got chicken houses, hog houses, what I call it the protein chamber. And that's a lot of money, and they feel like, well, look, it's always coming to us. And as you pointed out, if you would increase the taxes even 0.5%, it would be huge for them. But for somebody that's, got a home, $200,000-$300,000, it would be not that much money. So how do you get folks to understand that you're really hitting somebody that's really put their whole life on the line for that business, and yet you're knocking on their door for $300,000 or $400,000?
I had a hard time wrapping my mind around it too as a business owner. I felt like too some of the things that we were doing for other industry to get in when I was paying the full share. So that was a consideration I had, but it didn't take long for me to figure out. It's an analogy that I have is the highway system. If I had to pay for every highway that I rode on, I wouldn't be riding very far. So you spread it out over the area, so we're going to do that with industry, and that's going to help to provide so much more services for everybody in the county. So it's a win-win deal.
That's one reason we're so adamantly opposed to tax increases. We are beating to death our property owners that have a tough time in business these days, and then to have to add to their liabilities every year is tough. And we just can't see us having a higher tax rate.
We're property owners too. We pay taxes. I don't like paying taxes either. And I've heard people mention to me, my family has paid taxes on this land for 100 years. It looks like at some point, we'd get a break.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. However, the demand that for services for the county, such as fire and also EMS, things of that nature, and providing the services that are needed requires that investment. So we're all invested in it, but this will help to smooth out some of that and lessen the impact on the individual.
The idea of taxes also comes to mind in buildings that the county owns and operates, and a couple of those come to mind that I'm often asked about, whether I have the county manager on or some of you guys is we recently built and is hopefully in kind of the final stages of construction, an emergency management building, which was explained to me that the one that was there was the old National Guard Armory. And when I say old, underlined twice, that building pretty much in a sense of disarray. But an $18 million plus or minus dollar building. How much of that building, and talk about that process, but how much of that involved taxes and how much was grant? My understanding is quite a bit of it was grant money.
We plan to pay for all of it in grants. We're short, I think, about $4 million of the 18 now that we took a loan out to follow through with the program and get it done, but we're still expecting a grant money to come in and pay that off. So actually there will be no tax dollars in it. Now, I was opposed to building a building until we had those series of hurricanes, and I saw what our people were working through, and they had a hodgepodge of operations everywhere, and no one knew where anyone was. And it seems the impact that we were having with hurricanes and disasters coming our way, we had to have a better place to deal with it. And so that's changed my mind, because it was not fair for our employees to have to leave their home and their people to go work in a hodgepodge place that was flooding on a constant basis, where we were just within inches of it flooding. And it was a necessity for us to move forward and be prepared to handle the things that we have to deal with in catastrophic situations.
What I hear you saying is that is a critical asset need to this county, and particularly with the kinds of disasters and things that we're involved in.
We were having to put sandbags around the building to keep the water out. If I remember correctly, the EMS portion of it started the process of moving on this past Monday, the 6th. 911 center is not quite ready to go, but the moving process has started. I'm really happy about that.
And that's the problem is today the supply chain. Being able to turn off 911 and turn it back on just instantaneous is a problem. And so that's, again, the problems we're having with supply chain is the reason that's not in operation today. But it's we're starting to get there. We're not as far as we have been from opening the doors for full operation.
It sounds like that's a critical life-saving threat assessment, not only need but demand that you have to look at, and maybe prioritizing life is the proper way to look at things.
Yeah, we had, after one hurricane, we had people coming in from Ivanhoe, and a lady told us that she had fallen and broken her arm and had to wait a week to get out. And so, that's I can't imagine the ordeal of dealing with that, with the situation, but those things happen, and we need to plan better and figure out better ways for us to handle these catastrophes. And this 911 center and emergency operations center is the answer.
We're going to take another break, and when we come back, I want to kind of get into some of the final things that we can kind of wrap up with today. This particular segment will be wherever you guys want to go, but there's so much here to try to get it into a 50-minute block is hard to do. We're going to be back, ladies and gentlemen, in just a minute. We're talking about issues that affect you and your everyday life, and trying to help you understand better about the funding of this county. We'll be back in a moment.
Experiencing slow internet? If you have a fast internet package, the problem is most likely your wireless router. With more devices using Wi-Fi, your wireless router may not be able to deliver the speed and coverage you need. We now have the leading solution to enhance your internet experience. Using small devices in a mesh network, these Wi-Fi appliances cover just about any size home, so that all your devices can operate to their fullest potential. Whole home Wi-Fi from Star Communications. Get the most out of your internet connection.
Eastern North Carolina is a beautiful place where we gladly choose to call home, and we strive to provide the best communications services. Star is committed to improving communications to all our service areas, because we want to improve the communities where we not only work, but also live. Star Communications. We are neighbors serving neighbors.
If you run a business, you need sales. To get sales, you need customers. To get customers, you need exposure. Let our team of experts craft and produce the perfect video ad to reach your intended audience while making the most of your advertising dollars. Call 1-800-706-6538 or visit starcom.net to contact our Star Communications production team and get your business moving to the next level.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're coming up on the last segment today of We Should Know. Want to remind you, keep sending us those emails to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. That's weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. We certainly appreciate your commentary, your suggestions, maybe questions I should ask some of the guests when they're on, or maybe new shows. Also, our post office box is Post Office Box 1482, Clinton, North Carolina. Just address your comment, We Should Know, or WSK, and I'll get that and read it. I really appreciate it. I always look forward to hearing from you. And when I'm out in the public, quite a bit, folks will stop and ask me or make a suggestion or ask me to clarify something somebody said. I'm good with that. That's great. We're talking today with the County Commissioner Leadership Board right here in Sampson County's Chairman Jerol Kivett and Vice Chair Sue Lee. So I'm going to say it last time. Former Chair Sue Lee as well. You got vast amount of experience. We've talked about a lot of issues. I've just got one thing I want to touch on, and we're going to touch on some things that you want to kind of reiterate or maybe add to in this last segment. I would be amiss if I didn't speak to you, or ask you to speak to, rather, bring up the issue of public schools and buildings, facility needs and buildings. We've got some great schools in the county. There's some schools that are getting extremely old. Hopton District is one of them. And the price, we talked about this, the price on everything keeps going up. I can't imagine how many million we're talking about for a new structure in the Hopton District. Either one of them.
Yeah, that is a major concern for all of us. Education is critical. We're caught in a scenario. We have two school districts. We've got the city schools and the county schools, and that creates an impact on the budget. And if you throw the community college in, we're bound to support that as well. So education is a big driver of our budget, and will always continue to be. Our staff has, when they do the budget, they propose a budget, they have a formula that they go by, and any new money that we have come in, any increases, a percentage of that goes to that. And then, of course, when that budget is given to us, we're able to adjust as we see fit. But the education system is a concern. The schools, as you know, years ago, we built new schools, and we still have $77 million in debt on that. And that's probably 15 cents on our tax levy, and to the tax rate rather. And so that restricts what we're capable of doing. When you're at 82.5 cents, 14th highest in the state, it doesn't give us much money to work with as far as doing any expansion or adding any new schools. But now we're working with the legislature. We've been lobbying for the possibility of getting money through them. Any kind of grants would be great. But that's in the process. We haven't turned our back on it. As people feel like we have, we still keep that in mind, but it's going to be a work in progress.
That's something I'm sure when you were chair you faced as well, Sue. I'm sure folks would stop you and go, well, look, we need this building, but that was maybe years ago, and it's changed from 50 million to maybe 75 or even 80 million to build a building. Is that something that would require state assets?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can't afford it. We don't have the money. It's as far as the county is concerned. So yes, we're hoping that some money will become available from the state, and they're working to that end. From my my contacts. So I'm anxious to hear what they can do for us.
All of our students deserve a quality education,
Yes.
and we want this for them. But like Jerol says, when you don't have the money,
It's not one of those things that you have really a choice, because the revenue, what the revenue is. It's pretty much set. Yeah. It was mentioned to me a while back that there was some discussion, or is some discussion, about doing a reappraisal process every 4 years as opposed to 7 or 8 years. And the way it was approached was, is this another way for them to get more tax money out of us?
Well, the local government commission mandates or requests us to do that. We're behind the scale. The value of homes have changed. Real estate has changed drastically in just the last couple of years. We did a revaluation in 2019, and we were on an 8-year cycle. However, that 8-year cycle is not keeping up with the inflation at hand. And so we have moved to a 4-year cycle, which is really what most of the counties in the state do anyway, is a 4-year.
And may I add that the Department of Revenue asked us to.
Yes.
They wrote us and asked us to go ahead and do another reval.
Yeah.
To kind of upgrade.
To get us current.
By what you just said, that could be a significant difference, because unless I'm wrong, it seems as though just houses alone have gone from 200,000 to 350, or at least a third.
Yeah, and as I alluded to earlier, we've been in a perfect storm where our tax levy has stayed the same for 14 years. And so that's one of the reasons that the Revenue Department said we need to change our reval from 8 years to 4 years. So that's what we have done. We didn't have a choice.
One of the things that strikes me in this conversation as well is that we've talked about a lot of issues, and we've alluded to the 28 departments in the county, how important they are. Mr. Chairman, you alluded to the importance of our emergency services, yes, our fire departments, all our law enforcement folks. All of them are critically important. One of the things that strikes me, I think, is I always have a heart to mention is that the volunteers we have with fire departments in this county, if we didn't have those folks that stepped up on a daily basis, 24/7, throughout, as you pointed out, one of the largest counties or the largest county in the state, that would be a unbelievable tax burden. That's a huge asset, is it not? I mean, they give their time.
It's a tremendous asset for us, and we're so thankful for all those people. And we're having a downfall in the number of people volunteering. We're not getting the new influx of people, which hopefully that will pick up. But we have some great people in the fire departments that, talking about passion, they have to have a passion for it, and they do. We're so thankful for them, and they continue to go above and beyond the call of duty. They're never off duty. They're leaving work in the middle of the day, in the middle of the night, whatever the call is. There they go. You have an accident, they're called out on accidents and on the highway. So it's we're blessed to have them and thankful too. But you're right.
Critical asset.
Absolutely.
The impact would be tremendous. Financially.
So as we look at this, and we're kind of coming to closure here, it's just kind of a recap. This budget process and the weight of this budget ultimately ends up with the commissioners, with you guys. You're the people that set it into motion, that look at the analytics, that adjust it, and make the decision. Not that you need any more burden, but I just want to make sure that folks understand where that rests.
Yes, the staff will accrue all the information. They meet with all of the departments and get their wishes and needs and put all that on paper, and then look at it, and then they will assess the situation to what it takes. If we're short in money, either it's a tax increase or either we have to cut somewhere. And so that's when they give it to us, and it's our decision. It's the commissioners, the Board of Commissioners, that decide either we go up on taxes or we cut, or if we're fortunate enough that it's a neutral situation, we're blessed. But with the inflation situation that we're dealing with, we're going to be we're going to be looking at some form. We need some form of more tax money, and hopefully we can do it through a means that it's not an impact on our property taxes. That's our hope, but time will tell.
Last year, when I was chair, the recommendation was to increase the tax rate by 6 cents. I absolutely could not deal with that. And we did things that probably weren't a good idea financially from the county, but we did not fund some of our reserves for the city school buildings, the county school buildings, for the college. We were putting money away for economic development. We saved money to do revow, and we just skipped all that last year, so that we would not have to assess a new tax rate. We did that deliberately, where Mr. Causey came to me and gave it to me. I said, I want you to give it to Jerol separately, because I didn't want him to look at me and see how I felt. And Jerol called me that Friday afternoon after he had it, and I was kayaking. And I said, what do you think? He said, 6 cents. And I said, I just don't think we can do this, Jerol. I just don't. And we made a joint decision to not fund some of the reserves and cut some of the things we thought we could cut and keep our tax rate the same.
It's a hard decision, but our tax rate's too high now. And we're the highest of any contiguous county. And a lot of those counties have a whole lot more revenue coming in with a lower tax rate, but we don't have that. We don't have any oceanfront property or waterfront property that demands higher property taxes. We don't get that. And so we're a rural county. A lot of farmland, mostly farmland. And so we work within the boundaries that we have, which is constantly juggling, trying to make it work.
Those are the things that keep us up at night.
Yes.
Because we love Sampson County.
Oh, yeah.
We absolutely, and we want the best. We want to be, we want to do the right thing for everybody in the county and help us move forward, do things for the future, not just for today, prepare us for the future. We're committed to get rid of a lot of the debt if we can.
Yeah. We've got to get rid of the long-term debt. I've got something we're working on to get rid of that over a period of time, but that's got to be done. But yes, the whole board is a product of Sampson County. All of us were born here. Some have moved off, come back, but we all have a love for our county.
I want to thank both of you for being with us today. Invite you back anytime to continue this conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being with us today, and we look forward to seeing you again next week right here. And may God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host JW Simmons. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion regarding this or any episode, please send your emails to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.